On behalf of everyone at IMSA, I want to welcome you to what is now the third annual IMSA Hall of Fame inductions.
I want to answer the question that Chris Economy always asked, what's it like out there? Off we went, and I said, I'll just do it for a year. I just want to see what it's like.
You know, for me, it's just, I loved racing. I loved cars. It's why I didn't even care if it was Pikes Peak or the Baja 1000 or it was at the racetrack. People would ask if you want to drive the car. I first said yes, and then asked what it was.
At the start of the series, BMW was translated as British Motorworks. So we wrote in very big letters on the windshield Bavarian Motorworks, and after the season, it was more known that it's Bavarian Motorsport.
The Gurney family would like to thank all the staff and competitors in this room. Remember the days of grinding through 24-hour races. Each year, the camaraderie builds, the joy of competing with all exotic machinery. Dan Gurney, Big Eagle, welcome to the Hall of Fame.
On behalf of everyone at IMSA, I want to welcome you to what is now the third annual IMSA Hall of Fame inductions. Our third class, which I'm really thrilled about because now we're starting to trickle into the eras where I was sitting on the hill at Road America, Mid-Ohio, Brainerd, taking it in with my dad. When we started the IMSA Hall of Fame, the intention was to recognize the people that made IMSA happen from its very beginnings in 1969 through to today, and the cars. In a lot of ways, the cars, besides the drivers, which we're going to recognize this morning, the cars have been the stars for a long time. And when Bill France Sr. and the Bishops founded IMSA, they did it on several core values, and one of them was certainly to have manufacturers and chassis builders showcase their product, no doubt. But it was also to allow individuals, heroes of mine, like Rob Dyson, like Bob Aiken, like Elliott Forbes Robinson, to come racing in whatever manner they could. They didn't do it full-time necessarily, but they did it because of passion. And that is what makes this Hall of Fame so special. Someday, I dream of a bricks and mortar building. Today, we're a virtual Hall of Fame where we're going to capture the stories, and that's why we have our crew here today, because it's really the stories and the background that are most special. So as I go through each individual inductee or manufacturer or chassis manufacturer representative, I'm asking you to come up on stage. And we're going to have my dear friend Marshall Pruitt, a future Hall of Famer in his own right, that's going to walk us through this morning. First off, Rob Dyson. I spoke about sitting on the hills at Road America, Mid-Ohio, Brainerd with my dad. I aspired to be able to participate in this sport like Rob Dyson has. It's been a family program for the Dysons for a long, long time. After Rob ran for so many years, Chris joined behind the wheel as well as now ownership of the team. And what you've done, Chris, what you all have accomplished is amazing. But from Datsuns to Pontiac Firebirds to many Lolas, Till, and what you've accomplished in the sport is amazing. What you've accomplished in business with your family is tremendous. So let's welcome Rob Dyson to the stage. You got stairs on both sides, do we?
We're talking, there's no railing.
Dr. Don Panos, who needs no introduction, the 28th running of Motul Petit Le Mans, wouldn't be here today without Don's vision. You pick any seat you like. I know you like being on pole position, so.
I'll sit where I can hear you.
Okay. Dr. Don Panos, from Motul Petit Le Mans to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta itself, to creating the American Le Mans Series. I think we all know the passion that Don had from the very beginning and what he has done. Don will be represented by his son Danny. They are on the way, but knowing people have a lot of flights and tight schedules today, he'll join us here in a moment. Bob Aiken. Bobby and I have been friends for 25 years, I think, Bobby. Similar to Rob, Bob did not race full-time, but he certainly put up records that acted like a full-time driver. And I think it's fitting, we're here in Atlanta. He had tremendous relationship with Coca-Cola Company. And back several years ago, we celebrated that. I know Porsche did with
iconic livery of the Coca-Cola branding on a Porsche. But what Bob accomplished, his company, Hudson Wire, away from the racetrack, was really special for his legacy. But when he came to the racetrack, that got turned off, and he went racing with a lot of passion. So representing Bob, his son Bobby Aiken.
I think you probably, Rob and Bob sat on the front row many times. Another absolute hero of mine who has so many connections in this room is Elliott Forbes Robinson. When I had the opportunity to bring Mazda back to top category racing in the American Le Mans Series, and we announced that program at Sebring in 2005, sitting in the front row that day for that press conference was Rob Dyson and Chris. I finished speaking. They're the first two people that came up to me and said, welcome to the American Le Mans Series, welcome back to IMSA. Then I asked Rob, hey, I need a third driver for Petit Le Mans in October. He did not hesitate, and he said, Elliott Forbes Robinson. I had two young guns that had come from the Star Mazda Series, but we needed a veteran, and Rob did not hesitate with all the experience you guys had, winning Daytona, winning races. He said Elliott Forbes Robinson. Elliott, from winning the SCCA runoffs here in a Corvette, to Formula 5000, to Trans Am, to everything you accomplished, welcome to the IMSA Hall of Fame, Elliott Forbes Robinson. Come on up, bud. Whoa, he's showing off. You know, the day he showed up to test the garage that day, he showed up with his pickup truck and he had his mountain bike in the back. And I said, you know, we haven't poured a seat for you. And Elliott says, as long as I can touch the pedals, I'll be fine. And his first lap out, he went into turn 6, and I think he put 1,100 pounds of brake pressure in the car. And he said, you got to find the edge, you got to find the envelope. So that was amazing. How about Dan Gurney? Needs no introduction. Unfortunately, the Gurney family could not be here to represent Dan, but from the very first Daytona Continental victory, where he went across the line in the Arciero brothers car on the starter button to win the very first Daytona Continental, and all the things they did with Toyota throughout the years. We recognized the cars and Toyota recently. Let's welcome Dan Gurney to the Hall of Fame. Last but not least, on the driver's side, this is a very personal one for me, and that's Bob Tullius. Bob, known certainly for his relationship with British Leyland, brought Jaguar to IMSA. And in 1982, I was at Road America for the debut of the car that will also be inducted today, the Jaguar XJR5. Quick story, my grandfather was at Le Mans as a fan. After the race, he flies from Le Mans to London for his flight home the next day. Checks into his hotel. He's in the hotel restaurant, grabbing some dinner at the bar. In walks Bob, who had just finished the 24 Hours Le Mans. They strike up a conversation. They did not know each other. And Bob asked, where are you from, Mr. Doonan? His name was John as well. And he said, well, I'm from Maryland. And Bob said, that's interesting. I'm right in the Maryland, Virginia area. They struck up a friendship that was life-lasting after that. So in 1982, when the XGR5 launched at Road America, my grandpa said, hey, go to the Group 44 paddock area and tell them, the crew members, that John Doonan's there and you want to say hello to Mr. Tullius. Well, I was 12 at the time. My dad was there. The crew guys, oh, yes, sir. And they waved Bob out, and Bob came out of the truck, and he's looking around. He's looking for my grandpa. And I waved, and sure enough, he came over. And to this day, Mark and I went over and visited with Bob at his home. He doesn't travel much now, but he was completely heartfelt and very moved that he was being recognized. So representing Bob, another legend, part of our first class, Hurley Haywood, would you come up? Hurley's representing... Hurley's representing Bob. He's representing the Jaguar XJR5, which he drove. He's representing essentially from behind the wheel the BMW 3-liter CSL. I think you've driven them all, haven't you? Yep. And won in them all, I think. Such a special time for us. And last but not least, Till Bechtelsheimer from Lola is here with us this morning. I remember having a Lola cap when I was a kid. Absolutely iconic brand. I know Rob and Chris, I'm trying to think of anyone else. You probably drove some Lolas over time, Elliot. Absolutely iconic brand from Huntington, England. Till Bechtelsheimer, who races with us in IMSA today, bought the brand several years ago. He and I share a lot of the same passion for the Lola brand. So Till, would you come up and represent the Lola T600? All right, that's enough for me. My apologies. Last but not least, BMW. I watched my first Rolex 24 when I was 9. They used to give little snippets through the night. It wasn't captured all 24 hours. But reading competition press when I was a little boy, I remember vividly the victory of the BMW 3-liter CSL. Obviously, Sebring 1975 comes to mind. And we have the father of the BMW 3-liter CSL. Please come up and join us. Thank you so much. And Frank Van Meel, the president of BMW M globally. Frank, would you please also join us? I think it's tremendous to have the father of the car and the keeper of the brand yet to this day. So thank you, Frank. Come on up. And last but not least, Marshall Pruitt, our MC for today. That's enough for me. Marshall, thanks for all the research and the work that you do for us, current day and also the archives. Thanks, bud.
Thank you, brother. Mr. Rathloff. Pano's family as well. Please come join us.
Come on, Danny.
Danny.
Strength in numbers here. There's a familiar resemblance there. You guys smoke?
Yes.
As we have said, the last 2 years, we'll start this off the very same way by saying, hello, IMSA family. Love this event. Love the fact that we take time to honor those who made IMSA what it is. Before we got started here this morning, was already in Mr. Doonan's ear saying, I got a couple ideas for the 4th class. So this is just a constant passion and love and reverie for what all of you, your families, constructors, teams, and otherwise have given to us. But let's talk about this 3rd Hall of Fame induction class. It is a celebration of themes. It'll also be remembered in many ways as the Sons of New York class. Aiken, Dyson, Gurney, Tullius, all hailing from the great Empire State. Also, we are honoring this year a class of incredible innovators. The Big Eagle, Dan Gurney, my hero, became my friend. I still don't understand that. Someone who revitalized American endurance racing with Le Mans-style cars, Don Panos. Road Atlanta, the building we're in here, the town we are in, all revitalized because of Mr. Panos, whose motto, for the fans, has become truly something that we uphold every year in everything we do in IMSA. The versatility found within this group, the drivers being celebrated. Elliot Forbes Robinson, I do believe, my research says, he has driven everything in every series for everyone. There's some Formula One career I'm still doing that bit of research, and then there were the cars. I mean, Lola and IMSA, synonymous. BMW and IMSA, synonymous. Jaguar, Group 44, they all define IMSA. So, friends, our IMSA family, let's start the show. Bobby Aiken, we will be starting talking about your father, who had so much in common with so many of those being inducted this year. Mentioned this being the New York class, innovator class. This is the business class as well. Those amazing folks who had business acumen, immense knowledge, success, brought that to IMSA, their passion for driving, and brought Wall Street, the thoughts of Wall Street and business and success, infused that within the series. Your father being one of the true pioneers in that regard. Came to IMSA with a Porsche, continued to race Porsches. We'll speak more about that in a moment, but the Aiken family also added, like the Bishops and like so many others, a true family feel within IMSA. Dyson's as well, we can say this about so many, non-stop. There's a trophy named after Bob Aiken because of his greatness as a person and contributor to the sport, and also his abilities as a pro-am driver. Some of the statistics involved in Mr. Aiken's career are amazing. GT wins, 12 hours of Sebring. GTP, 1986 Sebring, 12 hours. If you were there, even if you weren't, you know there's a Porsche 962 in that amazing Coca-Cola livery, guy by the name of Hans Stuck who can yodel with the best of them. That race, again, if there was a pantheon of IMSA results to remember throughout the ages, that event won by your father and your team will live with us forever. Another thing that I love, all 89 of your father's IMSA starts were with Porsche, 51 in a Porsche 935, 34 with a 962, and 4 with a 911 Carrera RSR. Your father drove a Porsche in more races than any other driver between the years 1978 and 1987. Vast majority of those starts being with his own team, another hallmark of IMSA. I love this racing. Create my own team. Going to go to the races and build our own legacy. Third and iconic major victory, as we mentioned, came that Coca-Cola livery at Sebring with Stuck, Joe Gartner. And every year we award the Aiken portion of the award, Jim Truman as well. This is something that is done each year. Now includes an automatic invite to the 24 Hours of Le Mans, all to honor the legacy of your father. So not only welcome to Bob Aiken into the IMSA Hall of Fame, thank you to Bob for stashing his 15-year-old son, I think, in a Skip Barber car well before you should have. Winner of the Rolex 24 at Daytona in class as well in 1988 here. So the driving talent certainly goes along with Bobby's talent as a business executive, media, television, broadcast as well. So appreciate you, Bobby, here representing your father. Tell us what it was like growing up with someone who was flat out during the week as a businessman and then flat out on the weekend, and seeing that really become a huge part of IMSA as well, as more and more folks had that dual nature of what they did. What was that like to observe?
Truly amazing. My dad, he had an amazing work ethic, and whether it was in the office, whether it was at the track, he constantly had his nose to the grindstone, but he also was the greatest dad you could have on the planet. We raced together, we surfed together, we were best friends for my entire life, and it was a magical time growing up at IMSA races and watching him evolve as a driver and the team evolve from a bunch of volunteer help and some amateurs to a very sophisticated contending team. Was a magical thing to be around, and it must have had an impact on me because I'm still hanging around.
Why don't we move to the Dyson family? Rob, of all the hours of research spent, I thought I knew a lot about your accomplishments. I was wrong. 2 full pages. It could have been 3. I had to trim a few things out. You can yell at me later about that. But following in that Aiken model of business, sport, family, defining the Dyson Racing team. Active years in IMSA, American Le Mans Series, known in later years. Driving-wise, was involved for decades. Team involved for decades. Class wins across Grand Am, across IMSA. Major wins, the Rolex 24 at Daytona, multiple times. First start for the Dyson Racing team, Lime Rock, 1981, talking about IMSA. Some amazing vehicles here. The color scheme. You cannot see white, orange, and red on the planet Earth without thinking Rob Dyson, Dyson family. Thinking about the origins of this, SCCA club racing, the roots for so many of us coming up, and great success there. Think about Rob, family, not just those bearing the last name Dyson, but you look at photos from the early days competing in the SCCA. You see crew members, a little raggedy back then. It's okay, we were all raggedy in the early to mid 70s. But then you see photos from the early 80s, late 80s, early 90s, and you see those same faces. Crew chiefs, mechanics, truck, doesn't matter what the role was. Tells you something. Tells you that someone's doing something right, taking care of their people. This was another amazing aspect of Dyson Racing. Some teams, I know this as a former crew member, a lot of turnover. Tells you the culture there, not quite right. When you see faces who can earn their proverbial gold watch for spending so much time with a racing team, this is a big part of Dyson Racing's, Rob Dyson's history. Porsche 962 became a huge part of the team's history and successes. With Al Holbert, we'll call that the factory Porsche 962 team, we had our white, orange, and red giant slayers here, and they were really good at upsetting Al Holbert's plans. Some major wins. Some great drivers as well coming through in that era. Drake Olson stands out as one in particular. Price Cobb, another. Move in to more years into IMSA and think about the creativity of, we can buy a car, we can also modify cars, we can do our own body work, we can do our own chassis. Mostly Porsches, get into Spice Ferrari world, move into some Riley's World Sports Car Championship. Dyson Racing is here every time, winning races, winning titles. The things that get spoken about Rob and this team, great sense of fair play. One of the world's great lobbyists, not someone who would let his thoughts about that sense of fair play ever go silent if he felt things were not on the up and up. Have to appreciate that, keeping folks honest. Another aspect of Rob. Mentioned crew. Pat Smith stands out as someone, when you think of Dyson, you think of Pat and vice versa. Come back to the business acumen shared with the Aiken family, where Rob was someone who used his businesses, whether more commercial fronted, the radio media businesses, always found ways to merge those. Competed as a Pro-Am driver and yet always looked for ways to infuse the business side of what he did with the sport. Early days, we now know that is the norm. This was not always the norm until these two families weren't the only, but two of the highest levels bringing that to us. Thinking about the respect that they earned, bringing their real-world experience to the paddock. Also have to give him credit as a talent spotter. Hot Shoe, Poughkeepsie, I think, Chris Dyson, I think was his name, identified him as a young talent. That little whippersnapper still going today, I believe, Rob. Had some fun. Mr. Raffoff, one of his great tales, something about Del Mar, 1987, and a sound meter being taken out. James Weaver, I believe, can you share? That's another Dyson legacy. We're telling all the tales.
So, is this turned on by itself? Okay. Yeah, Rob, we had some interesting telephone conversations that evening as the California Highway Patrol was chasing me around Del Mar trying to find your driver. But what happened there was we had an event there in the Del Mar Fairgrounds put on by Chris Pook, great event. But it was in a river estuary, and we had the Audubon Society and the California Coastal Commission and every other California imposing all kinds of restrictions, and one of them was sound. But the process they used was a little strange because they didn't realize that as the temperature and pressure changes in the atmosphere, it would change how the sound would be. So we had to set up these meters, and about probably 2/3 of the way through the race, got a little bit of this coastal weather came in, and all of a sudden the sound levels started to go up, and Rob's car, which I think was doing quite well at the time, kind of started pinging the sound meter. And it wasn't just us monitoring it, it was all the all these groups telling us we're going to ruin California by racing there. And after a couple laps and a lot of conversation, James put on a little bit of a fake tank slapper and just took the meter out, which of course flew across the racetrack quite a bit. And of course, then the highway patrol said, well, he could have hurt somebody. Yeah, but he didn't, and it was a big thing. And I had to call Rob and, like I said, run around. But I think we weaseled our way out of it with nobody getting into real big trouble. But it wasn't one of our best days, but we got through it and still we're friends today. So but that's that story. You remember that, Rob, right?
Oh, boy, do I.
I had to hold my phone out here somewhere because it was even...
So a few more items to share. Oh,
Yeah, he did. I didn't.
this is an intervention, by the way. This whole Hall of Fame thing is just a ruse, Rob.
PTSD.
Yes. Another remarkable thing, 39 class wins with their Riley in the WSC era accounted for 82% of all victories earned by that Riley during this amazing era. Lola being something that you represented, the MG era. Daytona prototypes, significant involvement there as well. Lola, too, added to that. Brought Davy Jones back to prototype racing. Won 8 races with Mazda in the 2011 ALMS Prototype Championship. You think of a team that can do this over multiple decades. One of the most successful ever. Competing today, young Chris Dyson, continuing to add I'm just going to serve you up the best I can. Continuing to win championships in Trans Am. So proud to induct Rob Dyson and the entire Dyson family, your Dyson racing team, into the IMSA Hall of Fame. Rob, please tell us what stands out to you from this amazing career of yours as a driver. Let's talk about Rob Dyson, the driver. We know everything else, but you were pretty darn fast behind the wheel of many, many things, my friend.
Well, first, I want to thank everybody. You know, when I got the call from Mark about this, it causes you to reflect on a lot of things that you don't normally. There is one thing that I did kind of never entered my mind was Del Mar, believe it or not. That was a multi-level screw-up. And incidentally, just for a second on that, the first call I received was from your father saying, I think we have a problem here. And anyway, things happen and you have to deal with everything. And I had a long, lengthy conversation with Chris Pook about it about 25 years later. And we shook hands and I forgave him and he forgave me. So that was an interesting thing. Anyway, I as a driver, I thought that I had been around cars all my life. I bought my first car when I was 13, a family farm. Neighboring farmer had an old car, an old 31 Model A Ford, which I still have, and stuck in a barn. And I bought it, and we towed it home behind a tractor, and I started working on it, and that just started it. There's a picture of it. And so I started just doing things with cars and everything. I started working on other guys' cars, went to a couple races, went to a lot of races when I was a kid. And after I got out of graduate school, I turned to my wife and I said, look, I want to take the adage that I want to answer the question that Chris Economy always asked, what's it like out there? And I wanted to find out what it was like to be out there. And I researched it and found out that Datsun had a good parts supply, the cars were good, safe, and off we went, and I said, I'll just do it for a year, I just want to see what it's like. Started in August and ran, it was just my wife and I in an open-wheel trailer and my mother's station wagon, and got out there and won almost every race I was in. And it's the old adage, you know, quitters never win and winners never quit. Well, that's what happened to me. I just took to it, and I had the support of my wife and ultimately the rest of my family. And it enabled me to compete at the highest level of SCCA racing in that B sedan class. And then one thing led to another, and I just kept driving. I always enjoyed it, but I could never, with my business endeavors, just like Bob, we couldn't do full seasons. I never, after 1981, I never did a full season of racing, but I did enough races to confirm that I could still compete. And when I got out of the car at Watkins Glen, ironically, in 2007, which was the site of my first car race, when I got out, I felt that I had accomplished everything that I felt that I could do racing cars and actually driving them. But during that time, of course, the intervening years, I enjoyed the whole sense of organization of running the team and people and logistics and the competition and working with the sanctioning bodies, sponsors, and that kind of thing. All the things that you learn that tie into many of my businesses too. It was just a complete package for me, and I'm elated to have been able to do it and still doing it. It was just, it's been a wonderful experience, and getting to know and meet people that in my normal business life, just like Bob, in fact, we would talk about it periodically, about the characters that we meet racing cars, that in our normal commercial endeavors, you would never even think about it. And it just gave you the ability and the perspective and the enjoyment of life, and that's what made it such a full experience. And many of the people here and our friends are some of my best friends are at the racetrack. And when people say racing is a family, it is true. And periodically, families have differences. Periodically, families have differences, but in the end of the day, you're still family. So I can't tell you how honored I am to be touched by this. And I know that Chris, Joy, I'm really proud to have Nick here, my grandson. Play baseball, Nick. And can keep playing baseball. The box, the equipment's cheaper and the box seats are really comfortable for the grandfather. But anyway, but the key to it is that it's been a wonderful experience, and it keeps building. You keep meeting more and more peer. Mr. Nearspot, being able to sit and visit with him. Yeah, it's just incredible learning and appreciating it. And I'm just honored to be here, and I hope I answered your question.
No, but that doesn't matter. Rob, if I can get Roger Penske on the phone and get a deal on a couple of Porsche 963s, can we get you to come back to GTP?
Wait, you know, that would be an interesting project for us. It's not. Actually, it would be kind of a challenge. I'd have to see what the deal is, but I can tell you the guys in Poughkeepsie are ready for anything.
Rob Dyson. Let's talk about Mr. Plug and Play himself, Elliott Forbes Robinson. One of the nicest drivers ever in the most selfish of sports. Give me the car, let me go and fight and attack for victory, mine, taking, and yet you have one of the kindest, warmest people ever. Duality, it's a beautiful thing. We know some folks who are fairly linear. They'll fight you just standing still for fun. That's their competitive nature, lives with them always. Someone like Elliott with that competitive fire and skill, but reserves that for the racetrack. A loving, loving aspect of how his long and illustrious career was conducted. Won in SCCA, drove an F5000 for Dan Gurney. Someone who, the rare ability with the Donahues, Andretti's, Unzers, Gurneys, to jump from a stock car to an open wheeler to a sports car and be the best in any of them, in any era, in any point in time. Jokingly, I said he's driven everything for everyone in every series. It's not far off. Another testament to his vast skill. SCCA Super V champion, just his resume is phenomenal. And when IMSA was wanting to bring more driver steward knowledge, trust, insight into race control, if there's a first ballot pole position on that ballot, and we're now thankful to have Elliott in race control, offering insights and guidance to those conducting our races. Class wins, talking just IMSA, 18. Major podiums, 65. Daytona, he made a pretty good habit of driving into victory lane at Daytona with the Dyson family as well. Many occasions, big races, Watkins Glen as well. NASCAR, 22 starts, and we know him for his road racing prowess, was not brought in as a road course ringer. Lots and lots of ovals, and did amazingly well there. 3 top 10s in NASCAR. Double SCCA runoff champion, mentioned Super V, Trans Am champion, SCCA World Challenge champion. IMSA starts across 28 years. Friend Scott Pruitt here inducted as well, someone who we all think of as a timeless talent like Mr. Forbes Robinson. 2004, 31 years after his debut, he joined the Howard Boss Motorsports team, full-time in Grand Am Daytona prototype, added 3 more wins to his resume. After retiring from full-time sports car racing, made more starts, Petite Le Mans, as John mentioned, and more. And then Doran Racing 2012, Rolex 24 50th anniversary, was the oldest of the 5 drivers in that car, the 50-plus driver group at 68 years old. Think about everything he did, everything he achieved, and it was done seamlessly. This might be a strange thing to say about someone being inducted to a Hall of Fame, but Elliott drove the cars, did his work, and brought amazing results for teams without ever looking for the camera, without ever chasing the spotlight. He never heard the word me. He was a professional. He is a professional. It was all about the love for the sport, never about trying to reflect it back on himself. One of the many reasons I am so thankful we are inducting someone who deserves it for his work, not his name, not his fame, but for his passion and the quality of his work. Elliott, welcome to the Hall of Fame. And please tell us about this life and career you have had, where you're being honored by those who see you and know you for who you are, someone who has helped build so much excellence into our sport. For a humble guy like yourself, this might seem a little bit strange, so let us love on you a little bit.
Well, first off, I'd like to congratulate the other inductees for coming in this week. I think that's excellent for all of us. I think it's great. I'm not sure who you were talking about, Marshall. But, you know, for me, it's just, I loved racing. I loved cars. It's why I didn't even care if it was Pikes Peak or the Baja 1000 or it was at the racetrack. People would ask if you want to drive the car. I first said yes and then asked what it was. But, you know, because it's just something I wanted to do. I followed my dad to the races for a lot of years. and knew that this is what I wanted to follow up on. And fortunately, I was able to drive some of the very best teams with Rob and Chris and then Dan, and all these people had excellent cars, and they made you look good. And I just think I was just a really blessed guy that got to do what I wanted to do. That and it saved me a lot of money, because I would have been doing it on my own nickel if somebody hadn't asked me. So it's something that I've just been blessed to be able to do it.
Thank you. Thank you for everything you continue to give us. Should mention, by the way, we have our great friends here from Coforce filming all of this. One of the amazing advancements in recent years with IMSA, we have to thank its leadership, Ed Bennett, John Doonan, Mr. France, Doug O'Donnell, leaned in heavily to modern consumption habits, digital consumption habits, YouTube in particular, not just the thing to distract you on your phone for a moment or two, but IMSA has had the largest growth of any racing series in North America with YouTube subscribers, now more than 1 million subscribers. Wow. This will be edited and produced and posted in length and full length on IMSA's YouTube page so the world can see and consume this. So thank you to IMSA for making that happen as well, so this will live forever. Speaking of someone who will live forever, at least for me, the Big Eagle, Dan Gurney. Family not able to be here, unfortunately. They asked me to represent the family. Alex Gurney, great sports car champion himself, wrote something for us that I'll read from the family. We need to talk about the Big Eagle first. Much like Rob Dyson, we're inducting Rob. But we can't just induct the man, because the team that he created, the people that worked for him, the cars, the opportunities given, that is Dan Gurney's legacy as well, on top of being America's shining pride as a race car driver. Before Mario Andretti, there was Dan Gurney, who in this country, if not internationally, was the global face of a race car driver. Imagine that. Anywhere you went, this man was everyone's mental image, the average person's mental image of a race car driver. That type of fame, not because he sought the limelight, but because of how he conducted himself, the proudest of Americans as well. His All-American Racers team achieved so many things. Dan, as a driver, Formula One, winning Porsche's first, only Formula One race. The great pride of America as well, winning American-built car with an American engine in Belgium, Formula One in 1967. What did he do back-to-back weekends? Well, hey, let's win the 24 Hours of Le Mans as well with Ford and A.J. Foyt. I call that the golden week, the golden span. We'll never see anything like that again. The Big Eagle at the center of that. We look at what he achieved in sports car racing as well. John having mentioned that 1962 Daytona Continental victory, setting so many things in motion. Dan never followed the leader. It's because he was the leader. The people around him embodied that mindset. His famous crew chief, Phil Remington, possibly more famous than about half the drivers he ever worked with because of his craftsmanship, the way that he did his business, the standards he held everyone else to, that fit and aligned with Dan, the entire Gurney family. Appreciate as well Dan being at the forefront of inclusion. You look at the folks who worked for him, women, black men, Japanese folks, ran the gamut. There were no barriers that Dan saw when it came to hiring talent in a time many, many decades ago where others did see barriers. Was not by mistake. So appreciate Dan wanting to make sure that if he saw and found someone he felt to be the best, you were hired. Period. Didn't matter your gender, where your parents were from. Another reason I have idolized that man since I was a kid. So let's talk IMSA stats. These get gaudy. For a man who wasn't very flashy, these were not humble in the least. All-American racers, as an entrant IMSA, first start Daytona, 1983. Last start 1993, a 10-year span. Class wins, 51. 26 of those in GTP, 16 in GTO, 9 in GTU. Across those 10 years, 112 class podiums. Major wins, the Rolex 24 at Daytona, Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, championships, GTO, manufacturers championships in GTO with Toyota, GTP drivers championships, constructors championships as well. As a driver, Dan, known for not only that Le Mans victory, Sebring winner in 1959, USAC road racing champion in 1958. So many victories in NASCAR as well. As an owner and builder, All-American Racers, Santa Ana, California, making more race cars at one point than any other constructor in the world. Indy 500 victories, Formula Ford victories, Formula 5000. In this span of theirs, the 51 wins that they had, they were IMSA's winningest team of all time until a little outfit out of Michigan by the name of Pratt and Miller, who I feel confident Mr. Pratt and Mr. Miller will be up here before too long with Corvette Racing, took that baton. But yet again, American excellence on display. Also got into building their own GTP cars. Hiro Fujimori, the HF and the HF89, 90 as well. Real foray into prototype, downforce era, these small volcanic turbocharged engines got to be something that was so powerful, so dominant in IMSA GTP, and I'll ask you, Mark, to use the full word. Please don't censor yourself. One of the ways you slow down a car that's destroying the competition, as the Eagle Mark III happened to do in latter half of 91, 92, and 93, effectively killing the IMSA GTP class. One of the ways to try and slow that down, well, engines need air. And if you feed it less air, you bring the power down. Mr. Raffoff, would you regale us in when Mr. Gurney was informed of a rather restrictive air restrictor coming the way of the Eagle Mark III?
So in those days, the only rate, as Marshall said, was to cut the air off, and that cut the power, top power. But we really had no technology to worry about torque and other things that changed when you cut the power down. And a lot of what the racetracks were about at those days was torque. But when we presented Dan and the TRD folks in the engine department what they were going to run in 1993, Dan very calmly referred to it as sucking air through a hummingbird's asshole. Quote unquote. Sorry about the language, but that's what he called it.
Look, if the Big Eagle said it, we're going to use it, so we're all good there.
But they still won, so all that discussion really didn't lead to anything other than
thanks to the
still winning.
Hummingbird. Appreciate your attempt. Didn't do a darn thing. Let me share a little bit of this from the Gurney family, and then we will continue the program. The first official IMSA race was 1969, Alex Gurney wrote, but in the Gurney family, we like to think of the Daytona Continental 3-hour in 1962 as the ancestral start of IMSA. Dan won that race in an unusual style with a just expired engine. With a full lap lead, he rolled to the top of the Daytona high banks, stopping just before the finish line stand. He exited his Lotus 19, walked over to the flagger to confirm the time remaining, waited until the time was up, then got back in his car, turned the steering wheel, rolled down the banking, crossed the finish line for the win. He says, Dad always had a deep love for sports car racing, and it's always been part of the Gurney DNA. While he competed and won on the biggest stages in all the motor racing categories, it was IMSA where Dan and his All-American Racers team were able to put their full capabilities to the test. It was in IMSA where they were free to innovate in the design, manufacturing, and aerodynamic realms to produce some of the most loved and iconic machinery to ever hit the track. The start of a very long and successful partnership with Toyota. AAR's GTU Celicas debuted in '83, went on to produce many wins over the course of its 3 seasons. Many notable drivers came through the program, like Margie Smith-Haas, even a Daytona outing for the late actor Gene Hackman. Willie T. Ribbs, part of the team, Rocky Moran, Dennis Osse, Chris Cord, so many championships won. But there's nothing quite like the mark made by Dad in AAR's time in the GTP category. It says, while there were wins with the Eagle Mark II, it was the Mark III that captured the attention of fans and competitors. A car that later in life, when it was even mentioned, would make Dan beam with pride. We also want to say a special thanks to John Doonan, who was previously the head of the Mazda GTP program. In 2019, when his driver Ollie Jarvis in their Mazda beat, after 26 years, our qualifying record at Daytona. John came and visited us at AAR, brought us a beautiful frame picture they presented with the Mazda GTP and the Eagle Mark III running side by side. They closed by saying, the Gurney family would like to thank all the staff and competitors in this room. Remember the days of grinding through 24-hour races. Each year, the camaraderie builds, the joy of competing with all exotic machinery. We envy you. Says we wish everyone here a fantastic day and thank you again for this incredible honor. Dan Gurney, Big Eagle, welcome to the Hall of Fame. The Panos family. Talk about contributors to our sport and long-lasting. Don, son of Italian immigrants serving in the military, his success in business, pharmaceutical companies, is really what propelled a passion within the family to look into creating their own small boutique road cars, move into motor racing as well. Pano's auto development is what sprang forth there. If you look at those early cars, road cars, moving into what we got to know with these amazing front engine prototypes, very similar to a Dan Gurney for me, different at every turn. What is everyone doing? Let me start thinking about the opposite first. If there's some commonalities we might have to bring in, we will, but not looking to follow anybody. The racing team developing the Esperante GTR1, really the last of the great front-engined prototypes competing at Le Mans in the American Le Mans Series, International Endurance Series as well. Founding a little thing called Petite Le Mans. Founding something we know as the American Le Mans Series, which lives on today from that merger in 2013 with Grand Am. Founder, creator, builder, those are words we use so often with Mr. Panos. Think about motor racing circuits. We don't get our shoes as full of red Georgia clay as we used to when we go to Road Atlanta. Still a little bit, but having been here many, many decades ago and thrown away many pairs of shoes, I think about all the money Don invested, not just at Road Atlanta, but so many other tracks. His ownership, stewardship as well. Many circuits at a time where there were warring sports car factions, sanctioning bodies. Don came in bit like Santa Claus, made everything good, made everything happy and right, and with his eye for perfection, brought true class and quality to everything that he touched. Have to credit Don as well for being an early adopter of hybridization, electrification, the beloved Sparky version. The nickname wasn't necessarily given for the kindest of reasons, but being an early advocate of alternative ways, not just pure combustion engine, but how can we look at things that would propel us towards the future. He's doing this in the 1990s, something that feels so recent today with hybridization. Don, once again, so far ahead of the curve. The Michelin Green X Challenge, something created that Don was very passionate about yet again, and also part of his formative efforts of coming into the sport, the Women's Global GT Series. We think about what exists today with trying to promote women in the sport. We're talking about the late 1990s where Don said, I'm going to create an entire racing series dedicated to this philosophy. victory at Le Mans in class with GT car, competing for so many years, LMP1 Roadster, victory, Washington, D.C., been one road race held in the streets of Washington, D.C. Not only did they win, did it in the most patriotic of colors as well. Branching out into other forms of the sport, bought G-Force, became an Indy 500 winner, manufactured the chassis that ran the last full season of Champ Car. And I can tell you, even for some of the drivers who still compete in IndyCar, if they were in that Panos DPO1 chassis, they speak of that as their all-time favorite. So we think of someone who, like everyone else we've spoken about so far, who has given so much to this sport. Danny, tell us about this, knowing that you and your father, there we go, we got your microphone. We're inducting your father, but for me, we're inducting you as well and your family, because there's nothing done in isolation. Your mutual passions, ideas really brought forth everything that we're here to discuss and appreciate. Tell me about this passion of your father's and yours and the blueprint, the imprint you've seen that exists today.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And I just had like an electric shock go through my body. And you mentioned me too. We're working with Don and Pops, we called him. It takes me just a second. Let me get my thought for your question. I'll answer it this way. I was early 20s. I was at Road Atlanta. Early 80s. I don't know how you still look like you're 30, Scott Pruitt. Watching you and the Iron Maiden lady of motorsports, Lynn St. James, hustle those Trans Am cars around and watching the Can-Am cars and everything else. When we started the road cars, it was really simple. There was successful small volume manufacturers in Europe, but you just didn't have them here. And the real reason was the federal regs. It was just too, EPA and DOT were big hurdles to cross. But we decided to get into it because we thought we could do them and make them, get them certified. And we did. And not long after that, we were working very aggressively with aluminum technology, and we were some of the pioneers in that technology in road car construction. We've also, just as a case in point, got some of the very best crash and safety numbers in the business, way above a 5-star rating, if there's such a thing. And we were looking to, racers are innovative. They're Johnny on the spot. They're quick. They're fast. We'd also spend some time around some regular automotive entities, and it's understandable their pace is a little bit more measured, for lack of a better word. So we were lucky enough to get our hands on Adrian Bernard for a minute. He dives in the shop, and we're talking to him about, how perhaps his group could help us get our aluminum technology to the track a little quicker. And Adrian looks up, and he was very helpful. He was really quick and fast in his thoughts of what could be done. One of our guys knew that Adrian Renard was going to come visit with us, and we were in the middle of development of the Esperanti at that time. And to try to keep it as short as I can, because Adrian was coming, he took one of our road car models, like 1/5 scale deals, and he dressed it up like it was a race car, just as a kind of a tribute for Adrian. Don came over, we're having a meeting about that technology. Adrian looks down and goes, I could do that, and we should bring it to Le Mans. So we never talked to Adrian Renard again about helping us with road car technology. There was a whole other agenda that was born at that very moment. And if anybody knows Don can talk himself into anything.
And we thank your father for that so much. Don Panos, welcome to the IMSA Hall of Fame.
if I can, for just a moment, and I'll keep it short. Moving on, it was his experience at Le Mans that was the inspiration for all the companies and all the people that put up so much effort for one race, and to bring that to the States where the big market was. But none of that would have happened without the people that helped him do it. And they're all over the place, and a lot of them are in this room. Tom Milner, the crusty guy, we called the U-boat commander. But we loved him, and he has a heart of gold. He gave Don all of his interest in IMSA to help get it going, to get the ALMS. Scott Atherton and the crews and the teams and the team owners that took the chance to make the ALMSs great. And my last comment, and homage to IMSA and the people that run it today, one of Don's favorite sayings was, always leave a place better than you found it. So I look at yesterday's event, I look at all the manufacturers and prototypes, I look at them in GT racing, I look at the track, I look at the crowds. I've never seen it before. At one point, you couldn't even get in. We're full, you know? IMSA and the France family, he would be so proud, because you could just look at it yesterday. You guys have certainly taken the torch, and you have certainly done that. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. Our friend Hurley Haywood is going to help us inducting Bob Tullius. He shares something where, as Mr. Pano said here, if you happen to be at Motul Petit Le Mans the past few days, walk through the paddock, walk through any area, you'd notice a level of professionalism in the presentation, standardization. Any other IMSA races you've been to, there is a style, there is a standard that is set. Bob Tullius wasn't the only person to set that in motion. We have to thank Bob Sharp as well and some others, but beyond Bob Tullius's contributions as a driver, which we will speak on, as a team owner, where I think of white, orange, and red with the Dysons, I think of white, green, and a lighter green. The tone-on-tone style brought forth by Group 44, the taking the number 44 and inverting it, these little grace notes. Crews in the dirtiest sport imaginable, decked out all white, white pants, white shirts, something that would seem to be the opposite of what you might want to do while working with oil and rubber and yet, if a crew member did get dirty, what was the policy within Group 44? You'd go and change. Think about that. Someone from the very early 70s on with Mr. Tullius, his marketing and presentation mind. We also think of Roger Penske in this capacity. But in our specific world of sports cars, this was an ideology that he brought. As a driver, championed so many times over in the SCCA with Triumph, British Leyland is the mark. This great crew that he assembled. Virginia, yes, Jaguars were made in Virginia. So many other cars made there at their base. But thinking about the crew, run with almost militaristic precision, not a coincidence that some of them, Crew Chief Lanky Fouché, being one of the leaders there, did indeed have a military background and brought that kind of execution and precision to everything they did. His business-mindedness, bringing Jaguar in, making it so ingrained in what we did in IMSA. Then we think about opportunities given. Bob, as a driver, won so many things, so many starts, class wins, major victories. We're here celebrating Bob Tullius, the driver, the business owner, but also the creator of opportunities. Hurley, among your winning of everything in the sport ever, there's also, unfortunately, some inevitable sheet time, as they call it, some time in the hospital mending yourself. Found yourself at a crossroads, and who met you there? That was Bob Tullius. Could you share that story?
Yeah, I had hurt my leg really badly in a crash in 1983. And it turned out that I was have to sit on the sidelines for 2.5 years. So I obviously could not push the clutch down on a Porsche. And Bob Tullius came to my rescue. Bob called Al Holbert up and said, "What do you think about if I hired Hurley Haywood?" And Al said, "If you can hire him today." So that's what he did. The first time I had met, because I had heard really horror stories about working for Bob, how mean he was, and he was a military guy, and he really was by the book as far as military. Well, I had spent a little over a year in Nam, so I knew what it was like to take orders from commanders. And when I first started to drive for Bob, it was at Watkins Glen. I was walking down the pit lane, still had crutches, my leg was still in a cast, and Bob kind of said, "Oh my God, what have I done?" Well, it turned out to be a really wonderful relationship. Bob had so many qualities that I really adhered to, and one of those things was the way everything looked. Everything had to be absolutely perfect. If there was one spot on the car after a practice, he would have a crew member polishing it, and so every time the car went on the racetrack, it was perfect. And as time went on, I basically drove for the Jaguar team for 2.5 years, and then that program ended and we went over to Audi. But during those years, I really became very close to Bob, and he was a remarkable person. He was rough on the outside, but on the inside, he had a heart of gold. He absolutely loved IMSA, and I know that he would be truly honored to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I'm just sorry he couldn't be here because I think he really wanted to be here. So, thank you.
We'll close this Hall of Fame with 3 vehicles, icons as well. We'll open with the BMW 3-liter CSL, the Coupe Sport Lightweight, 71 races in IMSA, 12 class wins, 31 class podiums, major victories at Daytona, Sebring as well. Think about this car being the protagonist, Porsche setting the standard, Decon Monza coming in, a lot of big machinery here. It's BMW, different mindset, didn't have a hulking engine, didn't have cartoonish wings and such. Granted, the flares got pretty wide, which I loved as well, but the iconic colors, yet again, a theme, such a visceral part of this vehicle. Debuted in IMSA in 1974, Andy Petery, John Buffum, a few others, narrow track, smooth rear fenders. Then we get into the M side, the factory side, here near Pasheer. So many amazing drivers, Formula One drivers of the time, Ronnie Peterson in particular. These cars were rock stars at IMSA races. Went as well from being smaller touring car-minded vehicles. They got influenced in good old Alabama. Bobby Allison. These cars were made strong and stiff. Once you see them as they get the bigger fenders, the more muscular size, you see photos of them off the ground. Boy, I tell you, these things absolutely flew. Mr. Raffoff, we know that there was very good vision through the windshield, but I'm thinking about Talladega and some rain and a certain yodeler friend of ours who might not have seen that a motor race had actually come to an end. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that was 75, I believe, Mr. Nearposh, but we were at Talladega as a preliminary Saturday race for the Winston 500. And of course, in the middle of the summer, it always rains there, or there was a tornado or something. But anyway, so we start the race. It starts raining. It starts really raining. Mr. Stuck is driving. We get sort of halfway plus where we could call it a race. And Charlie Rainville, our race director at the time, decided, well, we had enough of this. And so we red flagged the race. Everybody came in but Hans. He just kept going round and round and round. And I believe, first off, they had Dunlop tires, which were magic in the wet. And of course, Hans was magic in the wet in any kind of tire. And I believe when he finally came in, he had a flat. And he pulled into the pit, and started yelling at the crew because they didn't jump over the wall to change a tire. And I think Jochen here, or one of the crew guys, had to inform him the race ended about 4 laps ago. And he just, am I right with that? That was kind of what happened, yeah. And so he won the race, of course, but he actually drove around for 4 laps, and afterwards he said, I couldn't tell if there was anybody else on the racetrack because I couldn't see anything. So he just kept going until he got a flat, and then he came to the pits.
Stuckey. So we think of this amazing BMW 3-liter CSL, what it means to IMSA, but also knowing, Mr. Nierposh, what it meant to the formation of BMW and the M brand and its presentation and embedding in the U.S. culture as well. You speak to those times and that adventure of coming over here and trying to create something that went so far and did so much that here we are inducting the car into the IMSA Hall of Fame.
First of all, we started with the BMW Motorsport GmbH in May 1972. The first priority was to build 1,000 lightweight coupes for homologation purposes. Second priority was to build up the company, because in Motorsport GmbH we started with 5 people. And if I sit next to Mr. Van Meel now, he's representing, I think, more than 1,000 people at the moment. So the development of the company was fantastic. So in 1973 was the first year we went racing with the 3-point CSL. We did win in the first year already the European Championship races and a number of races, other championship races. In 1974 already it started to be a sort of energy crisis in Europe. And in 1975 racing was not forbidden, but it was not productive for a motor company to go racing in Europe. So we had a complete fantastic car. We had a very good racing team. We decided in very short notice to go to the IMSA, to go to the United States. We didn't know anything about the American motorsport. The only thing we did know, we competed against the Porsche, and we did know, and similar regulations in Europe, that we could be successful racing against the Porsche. So this was the only thing we did know. At that time, BMW North America was not existing. So we had, with the help of IMG, we found a place in Hueytown in Alabama, in Bobby Ellison's race situation. So we had a good infrastructure. And we went over with 11 mechanics and 1 engineer to do the whole IMSA series with a 2-car team. This was a real adventure for us, and this was a completely different world. And at the start of the series, BMW was translated as British Motorworks. And so we wrote in very big letters on the windshield, Bavarian Motorworks, and after the season, it was more known that it's Bavarian Motorsport.
Mr. Van Meel, knowing that the M brand now is synonymous, when we go to an IMSA race, the BMW corrals are filled, and all you have to do is take a very brief look, that iconic M badge on so many cars, and really the heart of what you continue to do in the WeatherTech Championship, knowing the lineage of where this started. Tell us about wanting to continue honoring the M, the motorsport brand, today in 2025 and beyond.
Well, the words I've heard already today a lot of times is it's about family. We are all a big racing family. And I think it started thanks to Jochen Nierposh and Bob Lutz in 1972. If you wouldn't have been there, I wouldn't sit on this podium today. So thank you very much. And but I think it's about passing on tradition in the family to the next generation and striving for improving and still keeping up the spirit and the passion. And I think that's one of the secrets why nowadays we have more than 9 to 12 employees and sell more than 1,000 cars. Nowadays we sell more than 200,000 cars with the M logo. And yes, in the corral there are all these proud individual cars of a lot of proud people that are also crazy about racing. And that started in 1972, and I was also very proud when yesterday the M4 GT3 won the Endurance Championship and won the race, because what started in 1972, and now we come back to heritage and tradition, was take a series production car, make it lighter, give it more power, and change the suspension and the chassis so that it is able to win. And the M4 GT3 is the same principle. It even got the same drivetrain with a 6-cylinder inline and a rear-wheel drive. So you see some things change, but some things never do. And also thank you, John, for supporting racing and pushing. You're sometimes also pushing me, but you're also helping me. And I think that's the thing within the family. When we were talking about the future, are we going to continue racing at IMSA? And you know the automotive industry currently is under a little bit of stress worldwide. You said, is there anything I can do to help you? Can I give you the newest numbers? And we have increased awareness. People are getting more people to the races. As a matter of fact, Ed Bennett told me he was a little bit sour because he came too late, because he was stuck in traffic getting to the track here at Petit Le Mans.
Please tell me they let you in, Mr. Bennett.
Yeah, but he told me he was not mad because it was what he wanted. More people, and I think there were 10% more people coming to the race, so you see that passion is there, it's increasing. Racing is still the way it used to be, and I'm sorry I can't tell so many things about the past. I've been with them now for almost 11 years, but if I hear all the stories, I think we're writing the next stories right now, and if you plan to induce the M4 GT3 in the future, maybe not wait 50 years because I might not able to come then. But I think it's really great to have this tradition and to build upon it. And also, it is not a big family. I mean, if you look around, you always see more or less the same faces. There's new coming to it, but familiar faces. And I think that's what keeps racing great and keeps IMSA growing. And also is, for us as BMW M, very important because it's part of our legacy and you don't throw that away. I know some companies try to do that, but I don't think it's smart because if you have that legacy and all that passion, and if you go to the Corral, it's not just about cars, it's about passionate cars. I mean, the people don't talk about it as a car, it's a personality, and I think that's what makes it so special. And that's also what is so important for the future, and that's why we said we're going to continue our engagement in IMSA for the upcoming years as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I don't know what it would be, but I figure this is the one time I might suggest, how do we come up with a Hueytown, Alabama special M version? That might be a beautiful, we'll think about that afterwards. My wife's from Alabama. That might be the only way I can get her to agree to us getting a BMW. Let's close on the last two cars, and you mentioned personality, Mr. Van Meel. That is the Jaguar XJR5 and XJR7, created from the legendary mind and hands of Lee Dykstra in Virginia, as mentioned earlier. If you happen to be at Motul Petit Le Mans and you heard one car singing above the rest, you heard the Aston Martin Valkyrie in its V12 engine among turbos and V8s. This was the original Aston Martin Valkyrie to us in IMSA. I can still hear this car as a child. It is stuck in my mind, the soundtrack created by this glorious Jaguar V12. Later in the 80s, Tom Walkinshaw Racing took over the program, brought their cars, their V12, and I can tell you, having heard both, the Group 44 V12 had a richer, sweeter sound. You see folks nodding their head, and the folks said, amen. Truly remarkable achievement in visual design as well, which I think just fits Mr. Tullius's mindset. Looking at the car from the side, knowing that it is indeed a Jaguar, this car, from the side in particular, looked like a big cat on its haunches, ready to pounce. A teardrop type shape of the side mirror. I've never seen a car where its name actually stood out in the creature, the vehicle that you saw in front of you. So again, Lee Dykstra, good Lord, always ready to pounce on its prey. go through this one somewhat quickly because I know we're running short on time. To me, this car, of the many reasons that I loved it, it also stood out as the anti-hero in the sense that the Porsche 962 came along and really became dominant. Other GTP models came along. The Lola T600 was still there succeeding, March, etc. Others came along. We had this car, which as turbo engines really started to become standard in GTP because of the amazing horsepower that could be generated. Bob Tullius and Jaguar, Mike Earl, they stayed true to that V12. It won quite a bit, the XJR5 in its early years. Not as many victories later in life with the XJR7, but as those big turbos did well, you always knew where the Jaguars were. You could close your eyes and hear them above everyone else. I love the photos here, top left and bottom right. Bill Adam, the original co-driver with Bob Tullius in the car, happens to be the father of the great young Shea Adam, longtime pit reporter for us. But thinking about what this car achieved, again, is a bit of the anti-hero against the much bigger marks, much more in terms of volumes of cars. This Jaguar stood out, and for those of us who were fortunate enough to see it and hear it, made an indelible mark on all of us. So thank you, Mr. Tullius. Thank you, Lee Dykstra, and to everybody at Jaguar for bringing this car to IMSA. Let's close with the Lola T600 and our friend Till Bechtelsheimer representing the company. We often think of the Porsche 962 as the ultimate customer car, the prototype that transformed IMSA in the 1980s in GTPs. This was the actual car that did that. The Porsche 962 took the baton from the Lola T600. Something where, with IMSA providing its guidelines and specs of this is where we think this should perform. We're moving out of the Group 5 silhouette era, Porsche 935s and so on, into true prototypes with ground effects. Lola met that design parameter. Great downforce beneath it, but great versatility. If you wanted to put whichever engine that you were a fan of in the back of that Lola T600, you could. So not just a customer car to order and then go use, but the ability to customize from the outset. Another thing that Lola really set the trend on. And as Mr. Raffoff likes to say, you look up and in a flash, there's 10 of them. That was the real achievement in the influence that the Lola T600 had on IMSA. It wasn't one or two. It was mass-produced, purchased en masse, and great success. GTP championship after championship could put your 6-liter Chevrolet V8 turbo Porsche. You could go to Le Mans with a Cosworth engine. It was such a great utility vehicle, and it did set that trend that Porsche and other manufacturers followed. Till, first of all, thank you for bringing Lola back and what you're doing now with the company in Formula E, and I know you have great plans for the future, but knowing the history of the T600, what it represents to IMSA, can you share with folks your appreciation for what it means to the business? Because it really was, at least on the American side, proof that at the highest level of prototype racing, we can buy something everyone will want and they can go win next week with it.
Yeah, I'll try. I feel like a bit of an imposter that this car started racing a year before I was born, so I'm not sure it's fair for me to represent Lola for a car like this, but it's exactly a car like the T600 that's fueled my personal passion for sports car racing, for Lola as a brand, and has made me want to bring it back. It was sad to me that it was kind of fading into memory. And yeah, my hope is to bring it back, not just, we're in Formula E, that's not what I thought I was going to be doing with Lola when I first bought it, but there's method behind the madness, and my personal hope is to bring it back to sports car racing in the near future, and IMSA in particular. But yeah, the T600 I think is an example of, Lola throughout its history being very quick to jump into a new set of regulations, take a lot of risk, and provide an offering that was competitive and allowed people to go racing. And I think that's what we want to do going forward as well.
Won on its debut at Laguna Seca. Brian Redmond, the Cook Wood team, John Paul Jr., just these cars really were the first image for so many folks of GTP, which we continue today. Last thing here, knowing that this car then became the basis of some other models. Rick Hendrick, we would have a Corvette GTP car that followed. That was Lola built. Other variants, Mazdas used and such. It was something that helped a lot of teams, whether launch themselves or level up. This is something you've done in your career, your passion for racing and making sure that I have a desire. Which car should I start with? How can we form a team and elevate that? And you speak to that side of the Lola as well, because separate from the machine itself in victory lane, there were so many teams that rose to prominence. I'm sure you have to hope that future teams will be ringing you for orders on the T600 Part 2 or whatever it might be called. But for teams, this was also a very important vehicle that changed their lives.
Yeah, I certainly hope that will be the case. Yeah, when I took this Lola project on, I kind of knew what Lola meant to me personally, just for a passionate for motorsport history. I think I had a feeling what it might mean to fans in general, motorsport fans who've kind of watched Lolas, for so many years. I think what I failed to recognize is how much it means to so many people in the industry, teams for sure, manufacturers. It's almost no door is closed to me if I say I'm involved with Lola, because people have a really fond memory of working with Lola, driving Lolas, competing with Lolas, competing against Lolas. It's hard to have had much of a career in racing and not had some level of involvement, with or around Lolas. And I think, my hope is that the next generation of racers will feel similarly about it.
Amen. Bob Aiken, Rob Dyson, Elliot Forbes Robinson, Dan Gurney, Don Panos, Bob Tullius, BMW 3-liter CSL, Jaguar XJR 5 and 7, and Lola T600. Once again, welcome to the IMSA Hall of Fame, and thank you to all of our inductees and attendees. Rob Dyson has a comment, and thanks to y'all for coming out as well. The floor is yours, sir.
I don't want to minimize how important this was to me and my family, but I think that having an IMSA Hall of Fame is a brilliant stroke. It is a terrific idea, and to be honored in this is terrific. But when you think about the depth and breadth of the manufacturers, the models and the different cars that have been running in IMSA from 1969 on, and to highlight that, and it's reflected last night. I mean, look at the cars that were out there, and congratulations on your win last night. But the thing is that this is such a great idea, and I just want to thank Jim and John, Ed, and Mark for putting this together, because of all the Hall of Fame, the one that'll have the greatest diversity of cars, drivers, venues is going to be the IMSA Hall of Fame. And it's just incredible how I just thinking about it, how great this structure and creating this is. And I want to thank you all for doing that.
If we could have everyone join us at the front of the stage, we'll have Michael take a group photo.
Watch us this season on NBC and Peacock. Be sure to subscribe to IMSA on YouTube and enjoy our brand new IMSA Endurance Hour podcast. And if you're interested in digital activation in motorsports, visit IMSA.com/partnership.